This is Business and welcome to Metropole Television. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Thank you very much for taking your time to start your day with us, and we apologize for that short technical hitch in our sound today. Yes, our studio sound is really leaking. Richie, if you can fix that. We still have the same problem going on right now. Good. Now, let's therefore cross over to the economic review this morning. Now, in an article by the Business Daily, Nairobi County, together with Nairobi Metropolitan Services, are set to roll out a new property valuation system that is set to determine land rates. The new geographical information system-based mass valuation that is set to be rolled out between the current financial year and the next will be used to value properties based on market value and rates. Now set to cost at least 160 million shillings. It is contained in the county annual development plan for 2020-2021. It is expected that the expansion will increase the number of properties in the supplementary valuation roll by 5,000. Now, since 2013, a total of 24,780 properties have been added to the rating database, taking the tally to 156,000 in the proposed 2019 valuation roll. Now, during the 2019-2020 fiscal year, the Department of Valuations and Property Management was able to complete the development of the county's GIS-based mass valuation roll, which will be implemented from the financial year 2020-2021. Now, that is exactly how it reads. That's the plan by the County Finance and Economic Planning Executive, Alana Igambi. Now, the department aims at implementing the new roll and improving the utility value of City Hall Annex by repairing the plumbing works, electrical and tarmacking the two basement floors and parking areas. It's nice. Now, the new valuation roll draft has been submitted to the Nairobi County Assembly for approval. The first question that we're going to ask around this area is that what are the current valuation? We're talking about Nairobi market valuation and rates of properties on that. And to help us understand and dig deeper in that area, we're joined this morning by Beatrice Mwangi. She is a real estate research analyst. Beatrice, just before you answer that first question, should we celebrate this kind of news this morning?
It's a major step in the move to digitalize things, and it's going to make work easier even for the county itself in tracking the parcels that you have. So for me, it's a major step, and it's a yes.
So we should actually celebrate it, isn't it? So how bad, therefore, were our valuation systems just before this GIS-based system? And can you tell us exactly, can you break it down for us, therefore, for us to understand what it really means?
So initially how it worked, it was done manually, where you'd have valuers go directly to the ground and actually pick out the parcels of land that are there. Remember, with valuation, the idea is to pick out all parcels of land and then come up with a rate. The rate is usually paid annually to the county government. And you see, when, for example, they go to the field, they're able to pick out those plots. A lot, and probably by the next year, a land is subdivided. Sometimes they're even able, even if not able to track it back to where that certain parcel belongs. Yeah. Now with the new system, actually able to track those who've not paid land, and they're actually able through the system to actually locate that parcel on the ground. So they're able to know this plot has for land rates. It's exactly this place in Kilimani, which would not have been put without the system.
Yes. So anybody listening to this morning, Beatrice, is going to say, well, when it comes to valuation systems and all that, they have to also go hand in hand with the land prices, especially now since we're talking about Nairobi County. How is this going to affect the land prices that we're talking about this morning?
So first of all, with the efficient land collection of land rates, because we expect this system to make everything seamless for the county. Yeah. So the system is going to be seamless. We expect them to be able to collect as much revenue as possible. And we expect this revenue to then go into making facilities people of Nairobi. So we expect to see better roads, we expect to see better sewer systems, since the county will now have collective these facilities. So once we have these infrastructure improving, that has a direct impact on the value of land, because they have better roads. We can areas are more open to business. So we expect land prices to be affected positively. In terms of how it directly affects the land prices, there's no that direct connection. There being because initially people used to pay land rates, yeah. As of January this year, the new system where they pay 1% the current market value. So that does not change and won't change the amount every person pays. What able to collect more. Yeah, so we expect to see improved infrastructure, improved services for these people who are actually paying the land rate, and we expect that then on property.
Yes, Beatrice, so give me therefore a general outlook of where we are now. They're saying that they want to implement it in the 2020-2021, which we are actually now thinking that this has already been, is going to be passed. But look, if you look at this time, 2020-2021, we're already 2 months of, I would say 3 months of the new financial year that just started a couple of months ago. Do you think that with the way things are going on in the Nairobi County government right now, that this is going to actually be approved by the county government of Nairobi?
Started the only being changed in the 2000 has been digital. So the whole process.
Yes, Beatrice, I'm so sorry. We seem to have poor connection from your end this morning. And the question that I really wanted to bring out is whether this is going to be approved, because they're saying that, well, they wanted to implement it in the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Which is unfortunate that we can't get to Beatrice again so that we actually continue this conversation this morning. I'm going to try and get back to her again. Beatrice, I can get you. I'm just struggling to get you back here over this other side. And I want to ask you, it's already 3 months into the new financial year. And now, do we expect that this is actually going to go through from the Nairobi County government? What is the sentiment around it?
So, in my view, and depending on the energy that has come forward into actually having this system in place, I know it's long overdue, it's taken time, but with the energy that has come into moving everything to digital, from my end, I'm very positive that it's actually going to happen. It might not be exactly now and then, yeah? It could take a bit of time with the approval and the bureaucracy that we have, but eventually the system could be in place, yeah.
Yes. Lastly, as we try and garner speed this morning, because is it pro the county government or pro, I would say, the Nairobi residents who are into this sector?
Sorry, I can't get you, Simba.
Yes, is it pro Nairobi government? Where is the balance? Where is the balance when you look at this new system? Who does it, I would say, embrace more? Does it embrace the Nairobi County government more? Are they looking at proper collections? And are we also looking at inviting more value into our land? How is that? Where is the balance?
It's a win-win situation. Let me tell you why. The first objective of this of this system, if you look at it from the county side, they want to capture every parcel of land. As you can see in their reporting, their main agenda is to grow the number of people who pay land rates, yeah? Yes. So for them, as you can see, they've always fallen short of the revenue collection. I think in the previous financial year, they collected around 1.9 billion, yeah? But they expected to collect 3.9. So for them, looking at the numbers, they're looking to get to their target. But then, once they get to their target, what do we expect as residents, yeah? Because every time there are no projects happening, the excuse has always been we don't have revenues. So then when the system is in place, everyone is paying the land rates. Then we demand services, we demand infrastructural improvement. So from how it's supposed to be a win-win. So as we expect the government to be able to capture more property, to have more easier debt collection, then we demand better services, and we hope that's going to be the case.
Pretty much, Beatrice. Thank you very much for taking your time to speak to us this morning. And once they approve it, we'll be calling you so that we can actually talk about exactly what we expect in terms of the general picture, therefore, in Nairobi County when it comes to land valuations. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right, let's move on to our next issue this morning, where Kenyan startups admitted to incubation hubs will pay less tax if Parliament adopts proposals in a bill which seeks to promote innovation among enterprises. Now, the Startup Bill 2020 recommends a range of incentives, including fiscal and non-fiscal support, as well as protection of intellectual property rights. Now, lack of capital has been flagged as the key put-off for entrepreneurship in Kenya, especially among the youth eyeing to kick off their first ventures. The bill seeks to provide a legislative framework that promotes an enabling environment for the establishment, development, conduct of business, and regulation of startups. Now, that is according to Johnson Sakaja, Nairobi senator, who sponsored the bill. Now, other incentives under the bill include establishment of a credit guarantee scheme for startups and support in research and development. Now, entities that qualify as incubation hubs include companies, non-governmental organizations, and partnerships with facilities suitable to accommodate innovative startups. As an innovator, what are your thoughts on this? And this first question is going to go to Michael Tieno, co-founder, Wowzy Kenya. How are you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Is it timely? Is Sakaja addressing the biggest concern, especially for members in your sector?
Yeah, definitely. I think innovation is the lifeblood of any economy. If you look at the US, Silicon Valley happened because of innovation. Similarly, we're seeing a similar thing in Europe, where countries like Estonia and France are coming up with incentives to not only bolster their own startup innovation spaces, but also make them attractive to international people to also come in. So I think it's definitely very timely and very exciting to hear the country going in this direction.
Yes, Mike, I'll be coming back to you, and your question is going to be really on whether capital is a problem in this country. Just let me bring in Kathy this morning. That's Dr. Kathy Buthia, who is a lawyer and intellectual property expert. Yes, Sakaja is saying that we need to address intellectual property very properly for the very first time. Kathy, when you look at our economy, how much is that a problem, especially for members in the MSME and SME sector?
Okay, thank you, Simba. Before I begin, I'm personally very happy that finally the government is considering something for startups and innovators. And like you rightly put, the bill provides one of the functions given to the agency is to provide structures to facilitate intellectual property protection. And for me, this is a very good provision because intellectual property protection amongst innovators has been a very big challenge. One, because of lack of awareness. Generally, Kenyans are really not much aware of intellectual property rights. And even when you know about intellectual property rights, the classifications are not very clear to many people. And a lot of value is lost to innovators when they are not aware on intellectual property rights. The second thing, like Mike mentioned, is lack of capital. And I have dealt with cases where somebody has something that is protectable, but does not have the money to even secure the intellectual property right. So while the bill itself does not provide the mechanism of and does not define what those structures are, I'm very glad that there's that provision and there's that recognition and acknowledgement that there's a problem when it comes to intellectual property rights and startups.
Pretty much. Dr. Kathy, I'll be coming back to you on why we still don't have proper structures that pretty much guide the smaller businesses in the country and MSMEs on exactly what they need to do, therefore, to safeguard their business ideas and innovations. Now, Mike, I want to come to you. There's a very important point that Sakaja is mentioning, lack of capital. But Mike, they say it's not about the lack of capital. It's the lack of proper fostering of the MSME and SME sector in the country. Talk to me on a ground level up. How big is capital challenge in your sector?
Yeah, it's definitely very big. We don't have a deficiency of ideas. There's so many ideas. Every day you meet brilliant young people who have these game-changing ideas. However, how do they take their idea from idea to innovation or from a startup to a scale-up? Capital becomes a very, very big problem. Part of the reason is the traditional funding structures don't work very well for the startup space, especially because it's extremely high risk. As they say, high risk, high return. And if you see how other markets are working, is there's a lot of government incentive to incentivize this type of research and development, which is what drives innovation. By the way, a lot of it fails, but those few that succeed end up become billion-dollar companies that employ hundreds of thousands. So the idea is to have like a big brother who can be able to create an enabling environment that sparks this innovation ideas that the startups have.
Yes. Mike, your last question on this before I cross over to Dr. Kathy. They're saying that they're also looking at what we call physical and non-physical support. Now, what we have is non-physical support. Fine. What sort of physical support would have you wished for when you were starting Wowzy?
So at the end of the day, for you to execute some of the innovations that we come up with, part of what you need is a very, very strong team. And a strong team requires, capital to be able to enable you to, recruit and have like the right team to build whatever innovation that you have. So there's a lot of that. But if I give just one weird example that I've seen elsewhere, there's, for instance, the startup visa that the French president came up with. And his idea was, how do I attract the best talent, irrespective of wherever they're coming from, to be able to come and bolster the innovation space? If you look at Silicon Valley in the US, it's not only US citizen, it's actually the fact that the environment is so attractive for not only locals, but also international talent. So talent becomes a very key thing, and some of those non-fiscal incentives are able to help attract both local and international talent, but also capital. So I think that is what I would say in terms of this.
Fantastic. Dr. Kathy, let me just bring you in on that 2 minutes, if you may. Good. I mean, what is not lacking in the economy, Dr. Kathy, is credit guarantee schemes. There are many of them, and the government is actually pushing for many as well. But how can we transfer these credit guarantee schemes to help these smaller businesses foster their intellectual property rights? Because it seems we think about the business as opposed to sort of protecting the intellectual property rights for this business.
All right, thank you. So one thing I'd like to mention in answering you is there's while the innovation policy, we actually have a new ICT policy that was revised sometime in August. And in that policy, the government sets out some attractive fiscal, packages for innovators. And they have mentioned, they have talked a lot about innovation funding and innovation financing. So in it, they're talking about venture capital, they're talking about pre-prototype stage funding, and they're also talking about listing, getting funding through the capital markets. Now, while this is set on paper, I'm really curious how, how they're going to bring it down to the grassroots, like you have mentioned. I think while it is good to, one of the problems we have is we draft very nice laws, but when it comes to implementing, there's a bit of a challenge there. So as we implement this bill or this law on startups, we need to set up the proper structures and systems to, to reap the maximum benefit out of them. I'll give you a case of the United Kingdom. In the UK, they have what they call the SEIS tax. And this is a tax incentive given to investors. If you invest into a startup, yeah, if you're a venture capitalist or an angel investor into a startup, then you have some sort of tax incentives. So as the government puts down the law, it needs to really also think about the structures and the systems to support the law. Now, curiously, is that our tax laws are changing. Starting January, we'll have the minimum tax. I don't know, they call it minimum. There'll be a minimum tax. So whether you make a profit or not, you're supposed to pay tax of 1% of your gross revenue. Then there's also the digital tax that was passed around July, August. Now, this kind of new taxes really stifle, in my view, they really stifle entrepreneurship. And to me, it seems like these agencies in the government are not reading from the same script. While one is saying we are giving fiscal incentives, the other one is going ahead and doing the exact opposite. So to reap the maximum benefit, we need to have the proper systems and structures. And by the way, Simba, the Kenyan constitution has been reputed to be the best in the world when it comes to intellectual property rights protection. So we have very good laws. Now, what I just to do is to have the right structures.
Pretty much, Dr. Kathy. Mike, thank you very much for joining us this morning on our economic review. We take a short break. Once we come back, we look at what is trending in other sectors of the economy.